USS Thresher was the lead submarine of a class of nuclear-powered attack boats in the 1960s, named after the Thresher shark. The submarine had state-of-the-art features that made it the fastest and quietest of its day, significantly pushing the boundaries of Cold War technology. In April 1963, USS Thresher left port to perform a series of test dives off Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and never returned. After a series of bewildering underwater telephone calls, the boat sank to the ocean floor. The naval community was baffled, and the Navy classified the report, releasing only scant details about an accident that claimed 129 lives. The mystery persisted for decades until a lawsuit forced some documents into the light. And even now, new information continues to surface about that fateful morning. The second USS Thresher, SSN 593, was the lead boat of her class. The class was among the first to use a teardrop hull design. Unlike conventionally powered submarines, nuclear boats could remain submerged indefinitely because they did not need to run on the surface. Thresher was 278 feet long, displaced 4,369 tons submerged, and could make better than 30 knots underwater. She was launched bowfirst on July 9, 1960, and commissioned on August 3, 1961, with Commander Dean L. Axine in command. From 1960 into 1961, Thresher and her crew conducted trials in the Western Atlantic and the Caribbean, often for extended periods. The crew evaluated the submarine's advanced and sometimes complicated systems and weapons through many exercises, including a 3-week training course in San Juan, Puerto Rico. The following year, her sonar and weapon systems were tested, as part of exercises designed to improve the strategic capabilities of nuclear submarines. Anti-submarine warfare training took place with Task Group Alpha, and Thresher also underwent tests to evaluate her missile-related systems off the coast of Charleston before continuing trials along the East Coast. As is typical for a first, boat testing took longer than initially expected because of the thoroughness and attention to detail. But after 9 months, pressure was recertified and she undocked on April 8, 1963. On April 9, Thresher left port in Maine for dive tests in deep water about 227 miles east of Cape Cod. A little more than a day later, while the submarine was nearing test depth during the first trial, the rescue ship USS Skylark received a disturbing message. Via the underwater telephone, minor difficulties have positive up angle attempting to blow. Moments later, at 9:17 a.m., a more garbled transmission containing the number 900 was received, and sonar technicians aboard Skylark reported hearing a mysterious noise like rushing air. Those were the last sounds anyone heard from the vessel. By that afternoon, 15 Navy ships were searching the area, and by 6:30 p.m., family members had been told that Thresher was missing at sea. The next day, the Navy concluded there was no hope. The submarine and her 129-person complement of enlisted sailors and civilian contractors were lost. President John F. Kennedy was notified and ordered flags to be flown at half-staff for 4 days. 14 months later, Thresher was found in 5 major pieces, the debris field covering nearly 33 acres of seabed. Based on photographs, recovered artifacts, and an evaluation of the boat's design and short operational history, a court of inquiry concluded that a failure in a saltwater piping joint 1 that relied heavily on silver brazing rather than welding had led to the disaster. The Navy's initial handling of the sinking and its official account left many questions unanswered, and skepticism, competing theories, and Cold War suspicions surrounded the loss for decades. The Navy remained highly protective of the official report, although there were promises to release the full documents in 1998. Only 19 of roughly 1,700 pages were published. The Navy saying classification was necessary to protect serving submarine crews, because the accident happened during routine dive tests. The mystery and debate over exactly what happened to one of the most advanced submarines of its time have endured. The investigation remained in the Navy's classified files for more than half a century until Captain James Bryant inquired about it. Bryant, now a retired Navy officer and military historian, had a close connection to Thresher-class submarines, having commanded 3 during his career. Skeptical of the secrecy surrounding the Navy's report, he asked to see the full document. In 2019, almost 60 years after the incident, when the Navy refused, Bryant sued. In February 2020, a federal court ordered the Navy to release 3,600 pages of documents in response to his Freedom of Information Act lawsuit. And from May 2020 onward, the service has released records in roughly 300-page batches. The latest batch, declassified in March 2021, showed that the loss of USS Thresher resulted from a chain of mistakes that included, but were not limited to, a piping joint failure. First, the Navy rushed Thresher into the fleet with an inadequately trained crew. The accident occurred only 6 months after the Cuban Missile Crisis. At a time of intense Cold War pressure, the U.S. government was racing to develop larger, faster submarines, capable of diving far deeper than their World War II predecessors. Second, Thresher's sinking was shaped by an escalating arms race. Overconfidence in cutting-edge systems, and insufficient training to manage those systems. Neither the crew nor the Navy fully considered that a nuclear-powered submarine could lose power. Third, and perhaps most critically, poor welding led a pipe joint to rupture, producing a leak that shorted the electrical system. The crew could not reach necessary equipment to stop the flooding. The ballast tanks failed to function properly, and the inadequately trained personnel did not respond effectively. As historian Norman Friedman told the U.S. Naval Institute, Thresher had highly complicated machinery, and the crew had little choice but to react instinctively. It is believed this sequence of events caused Thresher to implode at a depth estimated between 400 and 700 meters. The collapse would have taken a fraction of a second. The release of the official documents helped put to rest many suspicions of a cover-up and clarified the Navy's reasons for keeping the material classified. According to Captain Bryant, now that the documents are declassified, submarine safety instructors can study them openly and discuss lessons learned with peers. He also recommended that those lessons be taught to graduate students. By Navy tradition, USS Thresher was never formally decommissioned, and is said to remain on eternal patrol at the bottom of the ocean, never having returned to her departure port. The Navy continues to monitor the site's environmental conditions, and as of 2021, Thresher's nuclear fuel remained intact. The loss of the Thresher-class submarine prompted a thorough reorganization of the Navy's submarine force and the creation of SUBSAFE, a rigorous design review and safety inspection program. Between 1915 and 1963, the Navy lost 16 submarines to non-combat accidents, and SUBSAFE was designed to prevent such tragedies in the future. After the implementation of the SUBSAFE program, only one submarine experienced a similar fate, and that vessel had not been certified under the new system. The program was created as a direct response to the Thresher disaster, and became one of the most rigorous safety and quality assurance initiatives in the history of the United States Navy. It addressed every stage of submarine development, from initial design all the way through construction, maintenance, and daily operations. No step was considered too small to overlook, and every valve, pipe, weld, and piece of equipment had to meet uncompromising standards. Vice Admiral Bruce Demers, the Navy's chief submarine officer, explained that the loss of Thresher forced the service to fundamentally change the way it did business. Those changes touched every aspect of submarine work, including design, construction methods, inspections, safety checks, and operational tests. He emphasized that the Navy had not forgotten the lessons of Thresher, and that the safety of the submarine force had dramatically improved as a result. Engineers, sailors, and commanders alike were required to adopt a culture of caution and accountability, one that demanded absolute precision. The results of these changes were clear. Since the introduction of SUBSAFE in 1963, no submarine certified under the program has been lost, and the Navy has not experienced a peacetime submarine disaster in over half a century. This long record of success illustrates how the tragedy of Thresher, though devastating, reshaped submarine safety in lasting and positive ways. Today, every submarine in the fleet carries the legacy of that disaster, operating under standards